So there was something about someone's fingers being red. Wasn't there? Excuse me. There we go.
Objection!
Scarlet-colored writing is what you said you thought you saw, Mr. Vigil. And I believe that's exactly what you did see. Heathers again, you've no evidence to see that. Have a look at this report.
That's my brother's autopsy report.
Yes, and there's something in here that's bothered me since I first read it. It states that scarlet-colored ink stains were noted on the fingers of the victim's right hand. Yes, so it does. Scarlet ink. Now, I'm not familiar with the habits of the British aristocracy, I freely admit, but I would hazard a guess that they don't all go around with ink stains on their fingertips, do they?
Your wit is not appreciated. My brother was a well-bred and fastidious man. Should ink have sullied his fingertips, he would have cleaned them immediately.
What is your point, counsel? My point is this. Whatever Lord Clint Van Zieks was writing in that unusually colored ink, it must have been directly before his death. Because he died before he had the opportunity to clean his hand. What?
I remember. Something troubled me at the time. At the scene, the lid of my brother's inkwell was open. But Clint was punctilious about such things. It seemed unusual, and no document penned in the color of the ink that was in the inkwell was ever found.
So the document had disappeared. Are you suggesting that the document my father had in his hand that night in his cell was the same document that Lord Clint Van Zieks was writing moments before his death?
Then it was...
If Mr. Vigil's testimony is to be believed, it can only mean that, yes, Mr. Vigil, sir, when you spotted Mr. Asugi with the document in his cell, his precise words were as follows, were they not? Invisible ink? It actually might be. I had kind of considered that, but I'm like, when was that invented? Surely, the endoscope was around for some 70 years before we discovered invisible ink. How else would you discover it without a 70-year-old endoscope? Logically. All right then, but what's on that paper? A last will and testament. This will is the only weapon I have left now. A last will and testament. I don't get it. If the conversation really did go as Mr. Vigil says, then what we now know completely changes the meaning of what Mr. Asugi said. Oh, like it was Clint's last will and testament. What's on that paper? A last will and testament. Not his own.
You really think...
Mr. Vigil did indeed see the convict with a will, but it wasn't that of Genshin Asugi. It was the last will and testament of Lord Clint Van Zieks.
No, what?
Objection!
This is Sparta, my brother's last will and testament. That would mean that he had chosen to die.
That is what it would mean, yes.
No, impossible. That is utterly out of the question.
Lord Van Zieks.
Clint was pursuing the professor. It consumed him day and night. Whatever happened, he would never have abandoned his investigation before its conclusion. Never. He wouldn't rest until the job was done, until the killer was caught.
Is it gonna be like he was the killer? He killed the 4 people and then was like, well, I'll guess I'll just die.
The idea that he
and maybe that's what's admitted in the will, is that he was the professor and he like felt guilty, or he was blackmailed into it, or he drank a potion that turned him into Mr. Hyde.
The idea that he would willingly accept his own death is obscene.
And yet we can be sure that he was writing his will moments before his death. Sure is a very strong word in a court of law. we can think. I wouldn't say we can be sure. And that Genshin Asugi came to be in possession of that document. How many levels of hearsay is this? We're talking to him about what he said, about what the will said, about what he said was in the will. So what could the will have possibly have contained? Clearly, something that couldn't be made public under any circumstances whatsoever. Because armed with that document, my father was able to negotiate with the judiciary for his life. It was something so damning that it prompted the powers that be to enact that daring jailbreak plot. Yes, there can be no question that the will contained information of the utmost secrecy. Information of the utmost secrecy? No, it couldn't be. I've heard more than enough pursuing this notion of a phantom will. A phantom will nobody can attest to having seen serves absolutely no purpose.
Objection!
No, my lord, that's unacceptable. What did you say, counsel? The last will and testament that Genshin Asugi had in his possession was that of Lord Clint Van Zieks. All the testimony and evidence presented to the court has logically led us to that as a possibility. We have a duty to pursue the line of reasoning to its conclusion, but with no possible means of knowing the contents of the document. There is no line of reasoning to pursue. Invisible ink, and it can only be revealed by a liquid containing squeezed grapes. But where would we get that in this courtroom? There's no time. A reason why Lord Clint Van Zieks, a man of high noble standing, would have chosen death. Information so secret people in the judiciary would be willing to negotiate the jailbreak of a condemned killer. The only explanation that fits those facts is an unthinkable truth that turns absolutely everything on its head. But it's just too hideous, so I won't say it. We'll just save and quit. Mr. Naruhodo, however difficult the situation might become, you work with your client in pursuit of the truth. That's what you resolved to do when you entered the courtroom this morning, if I'm not mistaken. Miss Susato. So hold your head high and keep soldiering on. Also, with great power comes great responsibility, and also other maxims. Yes, you're right. 10 years ago, in his final moments, Lord Clint Van Zieks left behind a will. A will that Genshin Asugi was able to use as a weapon to negotiate his escape from prison. In all probability, the details in that will were related to the Professor case. The defense's last statement is mere conjecture.
What are you getting at, man?
Ryunosuke? As soon as these words come out of my mouth, there's no going back. I believe that the last will and testament of Lord Clint Van Zieks was, in fact... So I already said confession. I already said that as my first guess. report and accusation are basically the same thing, right? If he wrote a report accusing someone of being the professor, that's the same as an accusation reporting on who is the professor. So these are redundant. It's a confession. You can do this, Mr. Naruhodo. I believe that what Lord Clint Von Zieks actually penned that day was a confession. A confession? Regarding the mass murderer known as the Professor and his true identity.
Enough. Counsel. What are you saying? Do you even realize? A confession about the true identity of the professor. That would mean...
Lord Von Zieks, I appreciate this must be hard to take in, but it's the only explanation that fits. The killer that terrorized London a decade ago and became known as the Professor, the man believed to have murdered 5 members of the aristocracy, wasn't Genshin Asugi at all. No, you can't be suggesting. It was in fact the man believed to have been the 5th victim. Lord Clint Von Zieks himself. I have no evidence of this. It's finally open, is it? Pandora's box. The great Van Zieks family. This is the murmurs. This is the murmuring. Lord Clint Van Zieks is appearing on Jason account. He was actually a mass murderer, a perpetrator of atrocities of violence nature. If the public ever found out, law and order in this country would be bollocks. Ballyhooed.
My brother.
Oh, this is too awful. Poor Lord Von Zieks. I wonder, though, did he never suspect Mr. Naruhodo? Lord Barak Von Zieks is a brilliant prosecutor. Is it conceivable that he didn't realize what his older brother really was? Order in the court. Lord Von Zieks. The professor made use of an enormous hound as his murder weapon. Tell me, did your brother own a dog?
Yes, he did. Balmung. He was a well-known hunting dog. People called him a giant.
I don't believe this.
When my brother would go hunting in the forest of the grounds behind the house, he always took Balmung. After Clint's death, the creature passed away too, almost as if he were following his master. He was a magnificent hunting dog, worthy of the jewel-coated... By the way, he had a collar that looked exactly like the one that was used... worthy of the jewel-studded collar around his neck.
A jewel-studded collar?
That's right, although sadly, some years ago now, it was stolen by a thief who broke into the house one night.
A jewel-studded collar stolen by a thief. It so happens that myself and my colleagues have come across such a collar in our time in London.
How could you?
There was an old emblem attached to the collar too, made of pure gold. It was topped with a small crown. Thank you, sir. Referencing the magnificent clip. The breakdown of He-10. Those collars were awarded to the best hunting dogs, but presently he is the only dog to own this particular collar. It was topped with a small crown and bore an ornate capital letter B for Balmung.
An emblem bearing the initial B.
Oh my, you know it?
It's the insignia of the Baskerville family.
No, it's B for Balmung. The dog's name is Balmung. What? The Baskerville? Why is that name coming up now?
Baskerville is the family name of my late brother's widow. That pure gold emblem was a heirloom.
What's wrong with me?
Was an heirloom which Clint acquired upon their marriage. There can be no doubt then, the color you've described was Balmung's.
The family insignia of Lord Clint Van Zieks' widow. There was a considerable amount of blood on the collar when we saw it. Since we know the dog was used for hunting, it could have been from its quarry, of course. But it could equally have been from human prey.
There's a program. Yeah, Clint Van Zieks really likes the prosecutor. Impossible. These Japanese are making it up to exonerate them.
So, in fact, the person responsible for these murders of nobles and royals was a noble himself. And that threatened to be an enormous scandal that would irrevocably destabilize British society, and they would have a regular president instead of a silly queen. Yeah, I went there. No. My father knew that, and was using it to negotiate his way out of the unjust charges brought against him. But at the very last hour, those he'd bargained with betrayed him, slaying him mercilessly on foreign soil. Well, can you deny it, Lord Strongheart? 10 years have passed, and still now the 6 million inhabitants of our great capital rest easy, believing that justice was done. That though his anonymity remains, the diabolical murderer was caught and executed. Very well then. You may have the truth.
Tell me then, tell me what Clint really was.
Lord Clint Van Zieks was too pure of heart. When he became a prosecutor and went in pursuit of the black roots of crime, he drove himself into a corner. He came to the uncomfortable realization that to fight the most fiendish of criminals requires one to become even more fiendish oneself. He started dressing up like a bat and going out in the middle of the night, punching people, throwing bat-shaped boomerangs at them.
Clint.
The 19th century was a truly miraculous 100 years for Great Britain, and indeed the whole world. New industry, new technology, and with the birth of the Metropolitan Police Service, new law and order. But these dazzling new developments meant even deeper shadows were cast on society. Water sullied by factories, air thick with noxious fumes, and crime growing daily to fill the darkness. Lord Clint Van Zieks made it his mission to combat that darkness. But as time went on, it slowly ate at his soul, until eventually he was consumed. It's ironic, really, and somewhat surprising, that the truth has once again been unearthed by a Japanese. Once again? What do you mean? 10 years ago, your father, Genshin Asugi, turned up at my office one night. The professor? Yes. Beyond all shadow of doubt, you must issue a warrant to search his home at once. Don't be absurd. The man comes from one of our country's most illustrious families. He is a paragon of justice here in the capital. Yes, that's the point. That's why none of you British can see it. He's using his noble status as a diversion, whilst he commits these atrocious crimes behind the scenes. Do you have evidence? Well, did you ever notice that it's clearly just Clint, but with a bat mask on? Like, you can tell it's him. No, it's him. Nothing definitive as yet. But he keeps an enormous savage hound on the estate. We need the full support of the judiciary for this. We're up against a member of the aristocracy. So a large family estate has a fierce guard dog. You should know that's commonplace here in Britain. I'm sorry, but I can't possibly put Scotland Yard onto this based on the tenuous accusation of a visiting student. So I turned down Asugi's plea, and as a result, he took it upon himself to visit the Van Zieks mansion on his own. We can only imagine now what happened between the two men. One of them probably told the other, criminals are a cowardly and superstitious lot. Though we know the outcome, of course. Lord Clint Van Zieks perished.
I don't believe this.
So, in actual fact, Kazuma-sama's father did... He made the late Lord Van Zieks meet the same fate. He put a permanent end to the professor killings by taking the drastic measure of ending the perpetrator's life. As soon as I heard, I hurried to the mansion. When I arrived, it was easy to grasp what had happened. And? What about the will? Asugi must have already taken it. Nothing of that nature was found at the scene. We had no idea of the existence of such a document at that time. I was the only person who knew of the true identity of the professor. So, I resolved to keep it a secret, and to guard the secret to the bitter end. He was the hero that London deserved, but not the one it needed right now. So you're admitting to it, that you were behind it all? That's... It was you, then, who pinned the crimes on my father. I did what needed to be done in order to protect the law and order of the British Empire. Even if that meant employing an unforgivable ruse. Then it was you who arranged this fabricated evidence. I ordered that detective to take care of it, whilst keeping the truth from him naturally. For calling a mistrial. What a delightful jest. As if such a thing would ever happen in Phoenix Wright. Courtrooms have exploded before in the middle of a trial, and that does not stop them. They're like, well, there is an omnibus on fire in the middle of the courtroom, but we can keep going.
Gregson.
Obviously, he opposed me at first. Are you off your rocker? We can't do something like that. There's no question that it was Asugi who murdered Lord Van Zeeks. The house staff have made statements that they saw the man running from the mansion that night. Yes, well, I've no doubt it was that Japanese fella. But we haven't got a shred of conclusive evidence against the man. And worse than that, he doesn't keep a dog, so we're short of a murder weapon to boot. And we're short on time, Gregson. We must put a stop to this man's rampage for the good of the country. So we'll use whatever means necessary. Do I make myself clear, detective? Blimey. So this has resulted in an interesting twist, but we are of course still going to find out. Okay, no, it was Strongheart who killed his brother, who killed Clint. I mean.
So that night, 10 years ago, when I was attacked by those thugs in the back streets, and Genshin's ring was taken, that was him, was it? That was Gregson, and some hired help.
Then the detective handed the stolen ring to Dr. Wilson, who feigned its discovery from the victim's stomach during that autopsy. What was it exactly that triggered Strongheart to admit to all of this? Because he very easily could have just continued saying, "You sound like a moron, all of this is ridiculous, and you're going to jail." And in light of that decisive evidence, Mr. Asugi was found guilty of the charges brought against him. However, behind the scenes, he had actually already struck a deal with his accusers, in which he agreed to silently accept the charges. But I just don't believe that part. As far as I knew the man, that my father despised such underhand dealings. It was extremely easy to make him comply. You see, he had one crippling weakness. What weakness? Isn't it obvious? You, Kazuma Asugi. Me? Perhaps you have no desire to return to your homeland, Asugi. What? Though I hear you have a 14-year-old son. Agree to cooperate and accept your guilt without contention, and you will see Japan and your son again. You scoundrel! Whether you choose wisely or not, it will be a closed trial by order of Her Majesty. So whatever rash claims you might make in court will have no trouble stifling them. I guess, yeah, beans on the floor immediately. As soon as we were like, oh, it was actually Clint. There's only one outcome for you, Asugi. The gallows. Don't forget that I still have a weapon at my disposal. A document revealing a truth that I know you're desperate to keep hidden. Yes, it hadn't escaped my mind, which is the only reason I'm willing to bargain with you. I only want to protect this country's law and order, you understand. So, what's it to be, Asugi? Kazuma. He did it for me? And as I told him at the time, my motive was simply to protect Britain from the damage the truth would do. To protect this country's law and order at any cost.
Objection!
I've never dared let myself even consider this possibility until now. But in the light of all this treachery, I have to ask. The mastermind behind the Reaper of the Bailey. Was it you, Lord Mael Strongheart?
A rather brilliant idea, wouldn't you say, Lord Barak von Zeeks? That the spirit of your late brother, that paragon of justice, should return to reap justice for his sibling. Could there be a more appetizing tale for London's masses, I ask you? What? What brazen... I knew that you'd play the part to perfection, but your role really wasn't that of some embodiment of death. No, you were London's guardian angel.
An angel with bloody hands? I think not.
Those who had cooperated with me were only too happy to participate in my plan. Inspector Gregson, Dr. Wilson, my minions worked tirelessly to ensure that the finger of guilt could never come to rest on you. It's all thanks to them that you were exalted as the demigod the Reaper became. But Dr. Wilson left Britain 4 years ago, when he was invited to work in Japan. That's right. So I had to employ the services of his young protege after that. Dr. Courtney Sith. Dr. Sith? So, what with the execution of the professor and the subsequent reign of the Reaper of the Bailey, I've successfully safeguarded law and order in our mighty capital for the past decade. That is everything. My lords, ladies and gentlemen, I do hereby confess it was I who sired the concept of the Reaper. However, let me say in my defense that it was all for the preservation of law and order across the entire empire. No doves for emphasis.
Lord Strongheart did it. An unforgivable collection of crimes, but still, last. All those who died at the Reaper's hand were cold brought into the core right away. It was all the heir to the Reaper's.
There is no one left now who can reveal the precise truth of what happened 10 years ago. Therefore, this trial can go no further. Now, I would like to entreat all those present. Beyond these 4 walls, nobody need know the truth. Even Her Majesty must be protected from this. I trust you all to appreciate the importance of my request. It is, of course, for the good of the country. Can he do this? Can the trial really end now? Yeah, there have been a lot of... I mean... I guess the part where Sholmes jumps in and is like, oh, hey, doesn't everybody want to hear the truth? And the whole gallery is chanting like, testify, testify. And he's kind of like, okay, if I end the trial, then it makes me look extremely suspicious. So I will keep it going in hopes that I don't get discovered. But yeah, it is strange that he still, even now, thinks that he's getting away with it, but he clearly killed Clint, obviously.
Hold it!
I have one last question for the accused, Lord Van Zeeks.
What?
Of course, I know that you're a highly accomplished prosecutor. So I find it hard to believe that you didn't have any doubts at all. That you never suspected your older brother. Yes, the same thought occurred to me.
It was only once, but yes, I couldn't say that I never had my doubts. My brother's sense of justice was extremely strong, perhaps too strong, I observed.
Because at the end of Spirit of Justice, we kind of had a similar thing happen, where the person who had done it all, the person who was serving as the prosecutor was, like, the head of everything, and was like, at any time, I can just say, court's over, and you're guilty and put to death. And everyone, your whole legal team is put to death. So, but she's like, but I'm going to keep going just because it amuses me. And the way that you the thing that winds up happening is that you suggest that she might not have the spiritual powers that she claims to have, and that if she doesn't have them, then she's not queen of everything. And because everyone there is like there in the courtroom, it's like, well, she can't just say like, oh, well, court's over. Like, I'm not gonna prove it. Court's over. You're all dead. Because everybody's like, yeah, prove him wrong. Show him that you've got the spiritual powers. Oh, also, couldn't we deal with... Well, I think what they're saying, what's happening right now is that he's saying, yes, I did it, but everybody be quiet about it because I did it for the good of the country. But we're going to wind up proving, okay, there's one hitch in this thing. Asogi did not kill Clint. Strongheart actually killed him. Obviously. Because he's trying to say, yes, like, you finally dragged it out of me. I am the Reaper. We did frame Asogi for being the professor. But if the truth got out, then the entire British Empire will collapse. So everybody keep quiet about it. Also, obviously, Lord Strongheart is the one who showed up at the cemetery and shot Asogi and killed him. And we have to bring that up and prove that too.
At the time, there were members of the aristocracy who were bleeding the country dry for their own gain. And since they were nobles, they were untouchable. For my brother, it was a source of great turmoil.
And coincidentally, at the same time, the professor began his terrifying reign.
During the time of the professor killings, my brother did not appear to be himself.
And that made you suspect?
Yes. But it was only once, not more.
Only once, really?
Clint wasn't the culprit. That was my conclusion at the time, and I still believe that now.
Do you have any evidence to support that idea?
The third victim was the Lord Chief Justice at the time. It was he who had recognized my brother's potential and trained him as a prosecutor. No matter what the circumstances, it's unthinkable that my brother could have killed his friend and mentor. Also, the bite marks from that one looked like a human's bite marks instead of a giant dog. Almost as if somebody else killed him and bit him to make it look like it was the professor.
That will do. Neither Clint Van Zieks nor Genshin Asogi still walk this earth. However much we debate this matter now, we cannot hope to reach a conclusion. But there are only two extant pieces of evidence from the time. The woebegone ring that acted as the incriminating evidence to condemn Genshin Asogi, and the 3-page last will. What a frickin' goof! What a blunder! Have you ever seen a bonehead move like this? He just said the 3-paged last will instead of 2-paged. Frickin' idiot. Please, I hope Naruhodo doesn't catch it. And Van Zieks does. Please. And the 3-paged last will and testament penned in black ink and left behind by the man. The wretched truth of what happened is exactly as I have explained. Can we not go out? Come on. Don't keep me in suspense. Later today, I will present myself at the Ministry of Justice for whatever sanction is deemed appropriate. That is all. Court is adjourned. Where is my Paragon interrupt button? Yeah, we're not close enough that we're going to finish. I'm sure there is still more than an hour to go. So I'm gonna look for a good stopping point, but thank you, Kazuma. Me. If it wasn't for you teaching me how to count to 3 when we were toddlers, he would have gotten away with it. If it wasn't for you, I wouldn't have made this 11th hour discovery. What discovery? My lord, I'm afraid I must insist the trial continues. I beg your pardon. As the court has been reminded today already, we must stop at nothing to uncover the whole truth. And to that end, one particular statement made by somebody in this courtroom moments ago revealed a very subtle contradiction. What contradiction? But all I did was ask the accused one simple question. Well, it began with Lord Van Zieks and his recollection about his brother, but Lord Strongheart didn't permit the defendant to speak at length. I merely pointed out that we can draw no further useful conclusions here. So where on earth is the contradiction? One of them definitely just said something contradictory. It's time to identify who. It was Lord Strongheart. I'm sure of it. Something he said was slightly off. Come on, Ryunosuke. Think back over his numbers. Find the problem. Oh, they're gonna frickin' sepia me like this? Obviously, come on. Come on. You were such a hard game. Don't throw me this softball at the very end. I guess maybe somebody could have... I don't see how you could possibly miss it. Unless you hadn't figured that the will was missing a page. Lord Strongheart, would you care to explain? Explain what, counsel? Among the statements you made just a few moments ago, something you said was inconsistent with a certain piece of evidence we have. Inconsistent. I know. I really wanted Van Zieks to have a... He will. Surely they know. Surely, even in Japan, they have heard of the Sesame Street's The Count and realized that I would one day voice him with this voice. And whilst an inconsistency remains, the defense has a right to pursue an explanation. Ryunosuke, what? Let me warn you about the statements you are making, counsel. They may very well prove fatal. You claim my words contained a contradiction. With which piece of evidence, I ask you?
Take that!
This here is the will left behind by Mr. Asogi. The 2-paged will. What? Yet moments ago, your precise words were the 3-paged last will and testament. Ah. Could it be that originally there was a 3rd page? For a moment, I thought perhaps you'd identified something worthwhile, but it's a mere trifle. I see. A mere threepence. That's right, only 2 pence separate you from victory. A trifle?
Governor Caden.
What can I do for you, sir?
You were present when the Japanese man penned his last will and testament.
Aye, I was there for sure. I remember the black, worm-like scrolls to this day. And quite certain, my lord, there was a third page at the time. What? Only the first 2 pages were the actual will, though, if I mind correctly. The third was a message to his lad back in Japan.
For legal purposes, we required only his will.
And we wouldn't have wanted any uncomfortable words about Britain to get back to Japan, eh? So it was decided that the third page oughtn't to be sent.
Objection!
How dare you make that decision? I had a right to know what it said, to hear my father's final words to me.
The courtroom is no place for sentimentality, counsel.
Well, maybe you should have thought of that before making the prosecutor for this case the son of the person who was murdered by the defendant. Just saying. If you didn't want him to be sentimental, why did you specifically put him in court? As why? Why would you have it? He's like, for the past 10 years, I've just been carrying around this Japanese piece of paper in my pocket. As it happens, I have the third page of the document with me here now. My father's message.
It will be given to you at the end of these proceedings.
It'll be too late once the trial is over. We need to know what it says now. Even the slightest thing may give us a vital clue. My lord, the defense calls for Genshin Asugi's last words to his son to be read out loud before the court now.
Your request is denied. The inevitably maudlin words can be of no consequence now.
Objection!
The prosecution agrees the court should know the content of that message. Every possible piece of evidence must be thoroughly examined.
Very well then, Governor Caden. You will read the third page of the document for all present to hear.
Yes, sir. Only I should point out, my lord, that I cannot actually read Worm language. Who said that? Who said that? Is it Sholmes? This beautiful handwriting. Shame on you, Barry. Oh. Oh. If I could be of assistance here, I would be happy to translate the words into English for the court. Father! Since when are you a ninja? This is just fade in. Nothing personnel, but I shall read the letter now. I'm waiting for something to be scribbled on the back of it. They just need to put it in the court record so that I can go, whoop, look at the back.
You're still here, are you, Dr. Mikotoba?
Naturally, I consider myself a member of the judiciary, albeit a lowly one. But perhaps I should quietly withdraw after I've translated Genshin's message.
Your cooperation is much appreciated.
That too, I'm also looking for an opportunity for him to bait a fireball from him, to bait a Hadouken, so I can hold the letter up to it and the flames alight the hidden message. Kazuma, the truth is shrouded in darkness. A darkness only our clan's great sword can pierce. Oh, okay. It might be instead of a Hadouken, you actually do need to slash the... You cut the paper in half, and the real message was in between the fibers. Mighty Karuma twist. Oh, okay. It's inside the sword. Very well. Mighty Karuma, twist thy head and watch them fall, all thy mortal foes. That's the end of the message, it would seem. A haiku poem. Twist thy head? What is Karuma? The name of the Asugi clan's famous sword. A razor-sharp blade known to all, passed down for generations. It embodies the Japanese spirit.
It's not known to me.
It's the katana sword that was submitted as evidence earlier in these proceedings. The one worn by the prosecution counsel when he confronted Inspector Gregson. Boo-doo-doo-doom. Should we just finish today? Maybe it's not an hour. Like, if this is like the last real riddle, that we're gonna open this up and here's the real confession inside. Maybe we'll just finish it today. I think we can finish it today. All these procrastinations are beginning to try my patience. Adjournment of this court is long overdue. As the presiding judge, I have been as accommodating as possible of the will of the courtroom. However, despite all that, no new information has come to light. In pursuit of justice, Lord Clint Van Zieks tragically lost all sense of morality. He became more bat than man. When he murdered his former mentor, clearly he was already devoid of his normal faculties.
Objection!
How dare you? I refuse to believe that of my brother.
Too much time has passed. We cannot ever hope to know more than we do now. Especially since the alleged will that he penned in his final moments appears to have been lost forever. Arg! Lord Strongheart, you appear to be in something of a hurry to wrap things up, I wonder. I wonder why. We've heard you state time and again during these proceedings that everything you did was in the interests of protecting British law and order. And I stand by that. Without the Reaper, we could never have achieved the reduction in crime the capital has seen.
Objection!
What about Inspector Gregson, then? And Dr. Wilson. They were no criminals. You used them to achieve your ends, and then you had them killed. However you dress it up, there was nothing fair or just about that. Lord Strongheart, what exactly is it that you're hiding? Dr. Mikotaba, were you not to quietly withdraw after the translation of your former associate's will? In this courtroom, no argument carries weight unless it is supported by evidence. And it would seem that the defense has no more evidence to present. In which case, I hereby order all discourse from these proceedings to be struck from the record, doves for emphasis, and replaced with doves for emphasis. This is my last chance, Mr. Naruhodo. I have to present some decisive evidence now, or it's all over. But can I? I don't know. I might wait and see. At critical times like this, I've always found myself thinking, just frickin' sit here. Sit here and don't say anything. I can't help feeling that perhaps you've missed countless opportunities as a result. How? How could you possibly know that my life has been one long list of missed opportunities? Wow, they're talking about... Do you get it? Do you get it? That they're not just talking about Phoenix Wright? They're talking about the player. Because that's my life. But you have a new opportunity here, Mr. Naruhodo, for a change of direction. But you must be quick before Lord Strongheart's improvised gavel hits the bench. Up. That is all. Court is adjourned. See, I didn't have to be quick. I could have said it after his improvised gavel hit the bench. Not yet, my lord. As it happens, the defense will have evidence to present as soon as I twist the head of the sword. whatever evidence you think you have, I'm quite sure it's deserving of this. Oh, they did dock a point for being slow. My life-altering change of direction just came a fraction too late. There is quite simply nothing else of relevance remaining from the time.
Objection!
It's high time that you realized something, my lord. This gentleman has an uncanny habit of producing evidence at the final hour that had escaped everyone else's attention.
Nonsense. What is it, Ryunosuke? What do you have? I dare say the final, decisive piece of evidence that will reveal the whole truth about this rotten tale. How can you? Decisive.
Well, it would appear there's no escaping it now, my lord.
Let it be so then. Present whatever you think you have that can settle this decade-old enigma, if you are capable. What exactly is this evidence that the defense claims to be so decisive? Mighty Karuma, twist thy head and watch them fall, all thy mortal foes. I missed the bit about the lasagna. And the armband. That's the proper way to use the sword, is it? Maybe I should try it. It hurts my neck, that's the trouble. Mr. Naruhodo, if I might make a suggestion, I think perhaps it doesn't mean your head. I once studied the history and development of the katana. While we were learning to be a lawyer, she studied the blade. Very proud of her. And as I'm sure you're probably aware, the sword's head is the part at the very end of the hilt. It's written as head in Japanese, but pronounced as kashira, I believe. Kashira. So this was maybe a better riddle in Japanese, maybe. There was some kind of a pun involving the word kashira. Out later, Serp. Have fun at the raid. Do good. Beat them. Beat the dragons. Save the dragons, maybe, if they're the good guys. Twist the butt of the hilt? You don't think. Look what's inside it. Is that a tightly wound sheet of parchment? Scarlet ink! It's written in scarlet ink. I pen this, my last will and well, don't read it here. Read it to the court. It's Marvin Acme's will. Mr. Naruhodo, look at the signature at the end. Clint Van Zeeks. And the date, 10 years ago, on that fateful night. So for 10 years, it's been silently concealed inside Karuma, and nobody knew. The last will and testament of Lord Clint Van Zeeks. Wait. Oh my goodness. Look at this. This is unbelievable.
Take that!
There is a single piece of evidence that can clarify what really happened 10 years ago. And I'm not talking about my armband. The last will and testament of Lord Clint Van Zeeks. A wonderfully astute observation, I'm sure. But in case it had escaped your notice, that document was lost long ago. That's right, it was. Only I have it right here, discovered just moments ago. Impossible. That can't be. Everything that's happened comes back to this will. This document is the key that will unlock the entire mystery.
My brother's last will and testament. Where did you find that?
It was rolled up inside this. Inside Karuma? That ultimate weapon Genshi Asugi obtained has lain undisturbed in the hilt of this sword all those years, just waiting for the right amount of moisture to erase the words, for the right time to emerge and reveal the truth. The signature and seal certainly look official.
My God, it's true. It's my brother's handwriting. There can be no mistake.
Nice try, idiot. Should have ended the court before I opened the sword up. Now it's a little late. I forbid the contents of that document from being read out. Do you hear me? I strictly forbid it. This is court. There are no rules. You can't do that, my lord. This document could explain everything. That document could literally destroy the meaning of justice in this country. I demand that you hand it to me at once. Why? What are you trying to hide? Could it be that you already know what's written on this page? What are you implying? Court is adjourned with immediate effect. Clear the courtroom.
Objection!
Do that, my lord, and you'll suffer a fatal blow as Lord Chief Justice.
I beg your pardon. Forcibly ending a trial without good reason, and not any trial, a closed trial by order of Her Majesty the Queen. To defy the monarch's will is treason. Treason, the second highest, most punishable crime after perjury. Well, well, my lord. It would rather appear as though proceedings aren't going quite as you'd hoped.
You fools.
Go ahead, Rinosuke, read it. The prosecution gives its full support. Very well, then. No, for God's sake. No!